Hey guys, this is Bond Free from FOE Advance. Thanks for tuning in. So today I would like to get right into the topic of moving from virtual future to space age Mars. Mars and beyond are different. They have different requirements, some additional gameplay, and additional resource in each era, and they end up having a colony, which is new, which is where you're setting up. It's a little bit like a settlement, but not really at all. It's just another place you go to do things. And then you're also going to see this spaceport kind of show up when you're at the end of VF exploration. So I've gotten a lot of comments about confusions about the Mars map, because when you go into Mars or higher, it just some of the things start to look different. And like you have this ore, and you see this lock, and you're like, I don't understand what to do with the lock. Why is the lock there? Well, the reason the lock is there for now is because I haven't researched SAM yet. Okay, so I'm going to do that on the video just to show you what happens, right? So anyway, it says, yeah, you can't use the spaceport because you got to, go in, you got to commit to the era. So in this case, all the story quests are complete for, I'm sorry, are not actually. There's still a couple to do for VF, but I'm not going to worry about it. So this is just for, entertainment and educational purposes. So anyhow, if I get into here, I can still battle this. I can still take these sectors as you normally would on a world map, fighting or negotiating, etc. But this ore icon is still, I think it's Mars iron ore, something like that, is going to be locked. So you can still lean into the map and unlock other features such as like land tiles and whatever else you get with it. I don't recall if you can capture any Mars units if you're still in an earlier era by going through the map, but maybe some of you might comment and note that. That's not as much my main concern on showing you what happens here. So let's go ahead and go into the SAM era, and I'm going to just research this and spend the money or spend the FP and unlock it. So now it's going to be like, yay, congratulations, you're in the Mars era, space age Mars. So a few completely meaningless rewards come up here. Don't even know why they bother. And then, of course, we get into the tech tree. Now, the SAM tech tree is actually not that large, but it's deceivingly large, even though it doesn't look like it, because you have a pacing item in this era as well as everyone after this for when you are doing the research. So it's one thing to get your hands on Mars era stuff. You also have a Prometheum requirement from your previous eras going into space age Mars. So don't rush in to SAM without looking at the little graph up here on the left, and on mobile this also exists. You're going to see if you click here between the eras, you can see what's ahead, right, or what was behind you. Actually, you can go back here to like VF and look at the tree if you want. But anyway, I'm in SAM, so here we are. But it's telling me, yeah, I don't have all the SAM goods I need in order to do the tree, but that's fine. I'll get those, or I could trade other people for them if I want to move a little bit faster through the tree. But the downside to this is that of that is you can't really rush it because of the production of the special good. And so it's showing you here, this is the gotcha, is your Prometheum. So if you haven't held on or continued mining Prometheum from your earlier eras, I mean, here you are in VF, you're like, I don't need any Prometheum at this point. Well, yes, you do. You need enough, right? You need 1350. I way overdid it here, but nonetheless, there it is, right? So that's a potential gotcha going into SAM. I'll talk generally about SAM in a minute, but here is the Mars ore. Okay, so we need 3,500 units of Mars ore to get through all of the tech tree research, right? And of course, you'll need more going into the following era, but We're just talking about this for now. So as you progress through the tree, you're going to see, okay, I need that promethium. Oh, now I need 200 Mars ore. And the way to get Mars ore is to create an economy, if you will, sub-economy, in order to accomplish that. I'm going to see how far I can get into this, being that it's kind of I'm early in the era here, and I'm just looking around. So here's the spaceport. It's there now. Okay, and that's going to take me to the Mars colony. So this is going to explain, and I'm going to leave this up, even though I would probably normally blow through it, is by accessing the spaceport, you can travel to your colony and start building it up. Keep in mind, this colony will only be used during space age Mars. You do not keep the colony. When you go to the next era, after this, you will have a new colony that you have to build out. It's going to have its own requirements, but it's going to be very similar in nature to this. Upon the next space age, you will not need your Mars colony anymore, etc., just like I said. So there's that. And then to obtain new goods that you will need to advance through, in a sense, the tech tree, you'll need to help out your colony. All new goods buildings can be built here, etc. They can only be built here. In other words, you can't build the ore buildings on Mars that'll produce ore, not as of yet. Now, as you move through the game, you will be able to create previous era ores or special goods in that next era if you didn't think ahead and stash enough in advance. However, it comes at a very high price and it takes a very long time. So always stash as much of the special good as you need to get to the next era without producing more. Because as soon as you hit unlock on the next one after Sam, which I can't even remember what it is, and I was like, Sob, I think. Yeah, you go to, anyway, you go to the next one, then, yeah, so it's Sob. Sob is going to need a certain amount of Mars ore. It wants 3,500. So if you go into Sob with 1,000, it will let you unlock it. Your spaceport's gone, and now you're on the slow boat. So don't do that. But anyway, here we are at the colony. So this is what it actually looks like, and you have expansions available to you. They have nothing to do. There's often confusion here. These expansions have nothing to do with your main empire expansions. Okay, so understand that's different. And in this case, there's roads to be built. They don't really seem to cost anything. And again, it's sort of like a settlement, but you start with this bigger map. You don't have all this crap in the way that you have to mine out and stuff. So it kind of walks you through it, right? It's like, you can drop a pod, and the pods create units, basically. Okay, and the units in turn support building goods buildings, and then in turn you also have an option for. It's not required to build I think it's called life support. It's this thing, yeah, life support. So in the case of life support, this depends on the type of player you are. Now, one of the reasons I've harped on most of my videos where I get into specific strategies like this, as opposed to like the broader topics of the game, I'm always harping on make sure you constantly buff your supplies, supplies. And this is where it comes into play big time, because if you are trying to get through Mars quicker, or you need to produce a lot of Mars goods, for example, if you have to balance your city by adding life support buildings, then you're going to be you're not going to build as many goods buildings. So you're going to be actually getting less ore, if you will, to support your growth and in the game. So let's say you had to build 4 or 5 life support buildings. Well, that's going to displace these goods buildings, because as you go, and I will tell you this, when you're building this colony out, you're going to end up building a bunch of these housing units, and then you're going to delete them pretty quickly, because as you go through the tech tree, you're going to unlock more powerful housing, that obviously is more efficient to your space. This is a very space constrained type of scenario. the most the most goods buildings you can pretty much drop on a Mars colony, your max once this is all built out and you expand these and stuff. I'm going to talk another thing about that in a second. Is about 10. I think 10 or 11 is usually where most of us end up. That's if we are not building life support. Now, what's the cost of not building life support? It costs you more supplies, a lot more supplies. So because I've always emphasized that in my own gameplay, I've always had enough supplies, I don't care. So I don't need the 75% discount on the supplies it takes to build the ore. Now, the other thing that you need to deal with is going to the map. So this is sort of like an ecosystem of how you have to farm this. So you have your goods buildings, but to build the goods, to build the ore in these goods buildings that will eventually be built, which aren't right now because I'm still early in the tech, you of course need to go to the map, and then you will want to have unlocked all of this if possible, everything related to Mars as quickly as possible, because it's going to unlock more of the sectors that have the ore icons in them. And you go there, and then once this is unlocked, you click on the ore, and then you use, in order to get what you need to produce the ore in the goods buildings, you get these credits pop out from the pods or from your housing units. You then go over here and you have a timer for the ore, and you click on it, and then you're able to. The ore has different sizes, so there's going to be small ones, big ones of these, and when you click on it, it'll say, okay, 24 hours, you can come back and harvest what you need, and then you go back to the city and build your goods, or refresh your goods, and you're back and forth, right? So when you go to Sam, you're adding a bit of gameplay because you're constantly revisiting the map once you've unlocked it, and then you're going here and you're collecting, and then you're building, resetting, and you're building goods for either 4 hours, 8 hours, etc. And then you just go back to your city and do your thing. So there's a little bit more going on, because when you go back to the tech tree, you'll see that it's like, okay, I want to have 200 ore, but it starts increasing as you go along. Now it's like 300 ore, and then other things as well. Oh, and by the way, it needs the orichalcum from OF as well. I didn't really highlight that, but it is in this list of stuff, so you also need to look for that. So you have to have 2 special era or special goods from previous eras, and then of course when you go to Saab, you're going to have 3. It's going to continue on. I can't remember if Saab needs orichalcum or not, so I can just take a quick look because it's right here. So if I go to Saab and I click on this, let's see, it's going to need, yep, it wants orichalcum, it wants promethium, and it's going to want Mars ore as well up here, 3,500. So anyway, it just keeps adding on. So that's that. So in this case, going back to, sorry, not GBG, going back to the spaceport, again, you're probably going to, you're going to delete the first round of houses pretty quickly as you grow, because you want to get more population, which allows you to plant more of your goods buildings. You're probably going to delete the first 2 rounds of these houses you build. And again, I recommend going, not doing life support, but if you need it for the discount on the supplies, then go ahead and go that direction. Just means you're going to be building overall less goods buildings. So I will say that Sam is amazing for battling. Okay, I mean, the Steel Wardens are absolutely incredible. I mean, they are like, we're talking about as good or better than the hover tank. I mean, they are so good. I camped in Sam on my main account for like over a year, maybe a year and a half, because it was just so easy to battle. I could, guild versus guild or whatever, I could just totally go crazy with the Steel Wardens. 2 Wardens, 6 rogues, done. I mean, it just was it's such a powerful combination. There's literally no other unit lineups I ever used or I ever needed. So that's something to keep in mind for Space Age Mars. So once you do that, of course, you're going to want to be looking for in-era buildings that you can build, but you got to unlock them all in the tech tree. I mean, one little thing I like is in the AD, you can sometimes get current era buildings, like special buildings, even before you release the tech or finish the tech tree to release those other ones from your era. Because, like, say a confectionery shows up, well, you can buy that and have a supply building already in SAM, or you can just take ones you have from before and one up them or reno them, and now you've got a SAM here. In fact, I'm going to reno that, or I'm going to one up that one because it was still, I think, back in Oceanic Future actually. So never mind, I'm going to reno that. So I never like to use 2 one-up kits. I'll always use a reno if I need to. So now I've got one supply building that's in the SAM era. Obviously needs to be connected to a road for me to use it, but anyway, gives you the idea. It's just a handy little way to if you've got an event you're in the middle of and you're like, you need to get supplies from current era buildings for productions. That can be a gotcha. So I would always recommend, before going into a new era, think about your timing for, say, fighting in battlegrounds. Most advanced players age up after the battleground season has started if you're a fighter. Don't do it right before events unless you are maybe a bit in advance of the event. And I would recommend you do it before events, because if you're going into SAM and you win buildings from that event, special buildings, you would rather get them in SAM instead of in your current era, because you're going to have to one up all of them. So that's another planning component that I think is really, really a factor. So anyhow, that's really the gist of what to expect going into SAM. I'm sorry I don't have a built-out colony. I may revisit this once I get to that point, so I can have a part 2 to this. But that was the main thing. So anyway, I hope this has been useful for you, and that it will make all of your advancement dreams come true as you move from the simpler times into these more advanced, but also more rewarding eras, I think. So take care. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe. Please comment. And we'll see you on the next one.